develop your own scoring system. I don't know why you would. I can get the pluses and minuses thing, especially early on in the speech. So if somebody gets 3 pluses, it reminds you that you really liked it. And so then maybe if you don't want to put the point value on right away, you want to wait till the speech is done, you can look at the number of points. That'll help you remember, just a memory guide.
Well,
So,
I know someone who has a specific scoring system for like humorous speech versus an international speech. So if they're judging in humorous speech, they have one set of standards where they different from any I'm talking about Jason with reference. He would, for humorous, only count how many times a laugh, and that's how he would judge. I'm not saying that that's correct, but he'd have a separate set of standards for judging humorous speech.
yeah, the problem with that, remember what we talked about?
Yes, I know, I'm just using that as an example.
Speech development doesn't say funny.
It doesn't.
Notice on the humorous, you don't have it in front of you, the humorous speech ballot, nowhere in the humorous speech ballot does it say, did you make people laugh? There's audience reaction is in there as a general thing, but it doesn't say funny. Funny speech is not going to necessarily win the humorous speech ballot, unless Jason's judging.
But he's consistent though, consistent judging
That's
across
okay.
all the
Well,
contestants.
and that's the secret, really, you do your own system. Right. Nobody ever sees the process that you went through to come up with it. And so I'm not saying I wouldn't encourage that, because that's not the way the judging form, and it's not fair to the contestants who prepared their speeches based on this judging form. And you go in and throw a different set of criteria at them, it's not very fair. One thing I will do is in the if I'm judging an evaluation contest, I'll put little bullets by their name. And that's that tells me how many recommendations they made to the speaker. And that tells me a little bit about their effectiveness of their analysis and stuff. So that's a tip I do when I'm judging evaluation. Just one little dot, and so I can look back and say, okay, he had 4 recommendations for that speaker. This person only had 1. To me, it's going to make a big deal when it comes to judging. All right, what else do we have here? Yeah, okay, numbers as a guide for minimum. This is what Lisa was talking about with, all right, it says, all right, let's see. Let's go on. Yeah, let's go into here a little bit where you can see the numbers better. All right, so speech development, that 14 to 19, 9 to 30, 28. Don't feel bad if you give them an 8. The speakers will nobody will ever see this. So I know the natural instinct is to, well, they tried really hard, so I'm going to give them points for trying really hard. No, what if they deserve a 5, give them a 5. You're only hurting yourself by giving everybody a very good or higher. Because what you're doing is you're shrinking your playing field, and you're going to get scores that are very close. And that's making your decision harder. So go ahead and use that full range of points. All right, so you're looking at speech development, you're filling out your ballot. What do they mean by speech development? Structure, organization, support material, that's the shorthand version. How effective was the opening, that piquing curiosity, arousing interest, all those things that go into a great speech opening. This isn't interesting. Was there a premise or purpose stated quickly? We're not going to talk about that now. I got a whole slide to talk about that coming up. That's one of my favorite discussions. And one that I guess it's my favorite because it's one of the biggest things in my mind now as I evolve as a judge that I'm starting to change my mind a little bit on. Were the points illustrated with creative and memorable examples? The examples they give have a smooth flow? Did their stories connect? Did their stories match the theme, the message? Was the premise repeated throughout the speech to make sure they communicated that message? Or was it just thrown in at the end? How important was there? How good was their closing statement? Was it powerful? Did it lead the audience? And those are all things that go into speech development. It's a lot there. And to me, as a writer at heart, more than a speaker, I love this category. This is where, to me, makes or breaks a speech, is the development.
How's that?
And which the Toastmasters too. It's make or break. It's 20, look at that, excellent 20, it's 20% of the entire value of the
Yep,
speech.
and it's within content, which is highest
Right.
overall weighting ones.
Right, 50% total on content. Effectiveness, oh man, I mean, this is, if you're looking for places to get a little bit subjective, it could be in effectiveness. How did it work? Did the speaker do what they wanted to do? Did they hold the audience's attention? Was it effective as a way of just of speaking? Was it effective in getting their message across? Did they connect with the audience? And those are all content issues here. And the audience respond. This is where there's laughter and how enthusiastically did they applaud, and or was there crying, or whatever the speaker's objective was, did they do it? And then speech value. This is kind of a controversial one. I've heard the International Speech Contest also called the inspirational contest. No, it's not an inspirational contest. Inspirational tends to win because they have a powerful speech value. But it's not an inspirational speech. So if somebody does an international speech on their trip with their kid to the ice cream store, and that's all they talked about without any big message, that's going to be different than somebody who talked about their life dealing with a major loss, where it was a powerful emotional thing, a powerful speech. So that's where speech value is a place to assess some of that, as well as original, innovative. I mean, as you go up in a contest, there's only so many sad stories. Did they do something different? Did they do something different? I mean, people have great stories to tell. What made them tell it a little bit differently? And here's a place you can reward people who do.
I was going to say, in the international convention in Chicago, one of the speakers that I thought was really effective, he was talking about riding a roller coaster up, and the way that he explained the ride up to the top of the peak, and then the rush and the danger of coming down, and it related back to his topic of his speech. But I thought the way he explained the roller coaster ride with the tempo of his speech and the volume of his voice, it felt like I was on a roller coaster. I think that was very innovative. I think that would be a really cool thing to insert in other speeches, but I totally see that innovative, something you've never seen before in a speech.
Hey, I just checked my watch, and we're in a little bit of trouble.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to blow through this kind of quickly here, so if you'll let me go through it, so to go as fast as we can here. I think you know a lot of these things. I mean, a lot of it's pretty obvious, judging on the physical, the parents' body language, voice, flexibility, volume. These are all things you've worked with at the club level in any speech. Manner, did they have a good personality? Did they have a Mark Latta type of personality up there on stage? And appropriateness, which is just simply, it's at work for Toastmasters. Again, this is an opportunity to, usually most people are going to get a 10 or a 9 or 8 on this, and this is more of a place to penalize if it's outrageously inappropriate. This is where you penalize. And correctness, grammar, and such. All right, let's talk quickly. We have to hit on some of this a little bit. Being objective. The top one is one of my pet ones. There's a reason it's up on top. It's the one we're most vulnerable to, which is simply the speaker who goes last gets rated higher than the speaker who goes first, simply because you forget. You forget what that first speech was about. You may have loved it, but you kind of forget how good it was. And that happens all the way up to the World Championship, at least the semifinals. It can happen. The guys who go last, especially if you got 8 or 10 contestants in a contest, that's tough on the judges. And you're naturally going to go for the person who you heard most recently. What's the answer to that? Take your notes. Take notes. You can go back and look at what that first speaker did. Have their title, have their message, anything else that really struck you about that speech. So you can go back and look at that again. But then don't overweight it and compensate too much and penalize the person at the end for going at the end. So it's tricky. Just be aware of it. all of these are just biases, recognize them. Halo effect, and the one person dressed better than another, therefore you let it affect your entire scoring sheet. Or reverse halo effect, let's say they're a friend of yours. It's a really good friend up there speaking, and you're judging them. Well, don't give them too many points because they're your friend. Don't penalize them too much because they're your friend. So that's the reverse halo effect. So be careful with that. Second time around, you've heard the speech before, or you've seen the speaker often, or give someone else a chance. Say, this guy won it 3 years in a row. Then that doesn't matter. That 5 to 7 minutes is all that matters. All right, when you made your decision, first, second, third, no ties are allowed. That's what the ballot looks like, except for the tiebreaker, who's got the 9. Print the names. You don't have to have the complete name down there. The judges will still count it. They should anyways. If you just put first names or last names, or if there's a slight misspelling in the name, just make it legible and clear and understandable. And of course, make sure it's signed, which hopefully you did at the beginning. Then the ballot counters are going to come by. Fold it when you're done. Take your time. It's okay. If you're the last one there and you just are not sure, you've got to decide. Think it through. Let them wait for you. It doesn't matter. You are there for the contestants. This contest is being held for the contestants. This is the ultimate thing that you are doing for the contestant. The audience doesn't matter. Let them wait. They'll let them sit there in silence and look at their email or something. Just take your time. As a judge, take your time. Make the right decision.
Mike, I know you're working through your presentation here. However, I would like to reiterate that even though there's only 1 minute given, they will wait for you. Just like Mike said, take the time if you need it to be thorough. We would appreciate you being more thorough than being rushed and general.
That's after all the speakers have spoken. You still only get the 1 minute between speakers. All right. Okay, I've got two 7-minute speeches here I really want to look at, and we're really tight on time. Let's watch some. How about that? We won't watch all these speeches. Oh, I got to start it over here. All right. It's not 2011 semifinal speech contest. We're going to look at the top 2 speeches. I saw these live because I was one of the contestants too. I'm not with these guys. I'm not at their level, but the best thing that came out of that contest was that I got to see these speeches and then use it for the next decade. Talk about coaching your swerves.
Light. That enthusiastic light, Kenny Ray Morgan.
Look at the judges form. Let's pretend we're judging these.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and most vigilant judges. So there I was, finally transitioning out of a lackluster accounting career over into the unknown world of fashion. When I started my clothing career in a popular store, the manager pulled me aside. Ken, if you come in here with that zest, that zeal, and that enthusiasm you have, you'll go straight to the top in this company. You know, it's been said that if you catch on fire with enthusiasm, people will come from miles around just to watch you burn. So with that fiery enthusiasm, my very first month in business, I sold a whopping 6 pairs of socks. And to add insult to injury, my well-meaning naysayers weighed in. I told you that clothing thing wouldn't work. Why don't you go and get a real job? You're just lazy and don't want to work. Why, even Granny chimed in. Baby, maybe if you go back down there and sincerely apologize for leaving, they'll give you your old job back. Ooh. Now I know what Einstein meant when he said, strong competition from mediocre minds. Well, months passed, and I began to make excuses for my inept sales performance. My little nest egg soon scrambled like cockroaches going up a wall when the lights come on. Well, I was so broke that I declared every time I would pass by a bank, the alarms would go off. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, Murphy showed up. Who's Murphy, you ask? Anything that can happen will, and at the most inopportune times. Let me explain. One morning I went out to get into my car, only to discover it was gone. Visibly.
Light. That enthusiastic light, Kenny Ray Morgan.
I already saw Kenny. Okay. I'm going to cut Kenny off because we're running out of time. Anybody ever wants to see these full speeches, let me know and I can send you links. Don't tell them I'm doing this to their material. But, any quick thoughts? We don't have time to go through the whole ballot sheet. Reaction, Kenny Ray. Great veteran speaker.
I thought it was a good speech, but I thought in some ways he was playing to the judges a little bit.
Mind to the judges.
Because when you refer to the judges, he always looked in this direction when he was making a point.
Okay.
This is what I was going to say. Don't placate the judges. You're wasting time. And obviously, you wasted time with your speech.
I think that he spent a lot of time, I always found this very frenetic. His presentation was just over the top. And I know you want to make big gestures, but I would have marked him down for just over the top.
Yeah, he's spending more time focusing on delivery and not as much on content.
Okay. I agree. What was his message? We're about 3 minutes, halfway through the speech just about. What was his message?
I don't think we know. Haters gonna hate.
All right, let's watch John Freisinger.
Big Scary, John Freisinger.
Elizabeth, are you okay? Yes, but I skinned my knee again. Stupid Big Scary. The Big Scary? That's what she called it. Everything my daughter feared about learning to ride her bike. Stopping, starting, steering, falling. The Big Scary. Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and anyone who's ever learned to ride a bicycle, Elizabeth was right. This was Big Scary. It was Big Scary for Daddy. I didn't want to see her fall again. If I let her go, I can't protect her. And no parent wants to end up in the emergency room at the end of their watch. Elizabeth, I think that's enough for today. Why don't we just put the bike away? Dad, I can't learn to ride the bike unless I'm on the bike. You can't learn to ride the bike unless you're on the bike. Brilliance from the lips of a 7-year-old. She takes after her mother. So I steadied her. Daddy, I'm doing it! I'm doing it! You can let go now! But I had already let go. And I watched as a pink ponytail helmet wobbled down the driveway, right past her Big Scary, and into that special freedom that learning to ride a bicycle brings into a young life. Now, I know most of you are sitting there going, John, this is a lovely story. But this is the Toastmasters equivalent of looking at somebody else's baby pictures. Get to the point where you talk about me. Okay. What's the Big Scary in your life?
The Big Scary,
John Freisinger. What do you think? contrast.
relevant. He made it relevant for the audience.
Relevant. He had a good, clear message. I thought, anyway. This is one of my favorite speeches I've ever seen in Toastmasters. Which one? Who do you think won that contest? And the winner of this contest went on to compete in the top 10 in the world. Who got to the big stage? Kenny Ray.
Seriously?
Yeah, Kenny Ray Morgan won that. And I mean, I'm not really criticizing the judges. It's not how I would have judged it. 50% content, 30% delivery. Okay, see why, to me, this is why we're having a class in how to be a judge. To me, it doesn't, Kenny Ray's a good speech. I mean, he's dynamic, he's funny, interesting, but how are they filling out their ballots? This is, this is way the criteria. And to me, John did a little better job. And when you start looking at things like on the back, the speaker has a responsibility to say something meaningful and original. Was I able to determine the speaker's purpose? Did the speech relate directly to that purpose? Was the audience's interest held? The other stuff we've gone through. So you make your own decisions, but that's the kind of critical thinking you have to make in a contest. This is veteran experience. This is the semifinal of the top 90 speeches in the world.
Question. The first one, the first speech, how much of that was original? Because if I'm judging that, how much of that is original and how much of that is basically I went and read a quote somewhere and put it in my speech? How does that play into it? Because the first one with Postmates, basically a lot of that.
Those are decisions you have to make as a judge. We're going to talk about protests here in a second and originality. Have to kind of go through this. All right, here's my big question I was going to ask, which we're not going to have time to go into in depth, but I'll say it just so we can think about it. Is it necessary to have the message at the start of the speech? I used to be, yes, absolutely. If there isn't a message in the first 30 seconds, boom, points down. It doesn't say, it says everything should relate to the message, but it doesn't say the message has to be at the front. So I'm starting to waver on this as I see more speeches that don't give away too much at the start. I still much prefer speeches where the audience isn't wondering, where is this going? I mean, that's the distraction. If they're thinking in their head, where is this going, that means they're not thinking about your message.
It depends, I would say, if you could give impact by holding out. If you have more impact waiting a little bit, it might add some oomph to your speech. However, if you can't do that, then I would highly consider bringing your message to the forefront.
My most recent speech, and it's really the last good speech I've written since this year, because I got tired. Took some time off, but I had a great idea for a speech, and I wrote it. And you know what? I did not have the message at the top. First time I've ever tried doing that. Only I knew that there was a reference to it in the intro. So it was there. And I teased them without them even know they were being teased. I planted the seed, but I didn't give the message until the end. Just tried that. And I think it turned out to be a pretty good speech. So that's something, again, just something you've got to weigh. Every speech is different, but it's something to consider as you go through it. So to me, it's an interesting
I
question.
think that that's the difference between a speech contest and a speech at a club, for example, or somewhere else.
Yes.
If you put in the introduction what you're going to be talking about and everything, you don't have to deal with it right at the beginning. On here, you're coming out blind. You
Okay.
have no idea what.
Exactly. Here's the risk you take by burying your message. The judges are filling out this form. Don't make it hard for them to fill it out. Give your message as a speaker, give your message early, and then your judge can check that off. The judges form. Okay, let's go on. I was going to go back and look at the top again. Don't need to do that. Sorry, John. All right, here's protests. This is literally what the rule book says. basically that top part says, all right, here's the process. Only the judges and contestants can raise a protest. The only thing you can protest is originality. If it happens, if you really think, oh, I just read that story on the internet last week, well, then you can raise a protest if you're a judge or if you're one of the competing contestants. So what you do is, after the speeches are done, while the ballots are being collected, you go to the chief judge or the contest chair, but probably the chief judge is better, the chair is going to be busy, and say, look, there's a problem. I think I've seen that before. What they will do, chair calls timeout, tells everybody, okay, everybody relax, we need the judges. The judges go back into the room again, and you go back and you sit face to face with the other judges, and you talk about it, see if anybody else has seen it, anybody else has heard about it, maybe you can pull it up on your phone, find proof, and then they call in the contestant. And you sit face to face with the contestant and say, where'd you get this material? And you can quiz them. And then the judges vote on whether or not to disqualify. Doesn't happen often, but it can happen. Any contest, it can happen. So you're going to ask, okay, so how do we know if it's original? There's the rules. 25% or less of a speech